Can everybody hear me okay? Well, I want to thank you all for coming to the Spearville Dodge City Community College Board of Trustees Candidate Forum. My name is Johnny Dunlap. I'm a city councilman here in Spearville. So those of you that don't know me but have some concerns, please come talk to me. That's great. The candidates drew cards for their order tonight, and they will answer in order, rotating who goes first on each question. They were given the questions ahead of time, and they got them all yesterday, so they've had about 28 hours or so to look at them. And we're going to begin with 2-minute introductions from each candidate, there won't be any audience questions in the formal portion of the forum, but please feel free to stick around to speak to any of the candidates if you have further questions. So without further ado, Terry Malone, you have 2 minutes for an introduction.
Good. Good evening, and thank you for coming on this beautiful night. We certainly appreciate it. My name is Terry Malone. I'm a litigation attorney. I've lived in Dodge City since 1975, having been fortunate to marry a former Dodge City girl, Gretchen Ripple. Her father is Dr. Bill Ripple, a veterinarian, and her brother is Dr. David Ripple. Their family, her great-grandfather came to the Ford County in, I believe, the 1880s. We have 3 children, Katie, Kevin, and Kyle, and they've all attended Dodge City Community College and taken classes. I became a candidate. I have been a trustee for 16 years previously. I worked with Flores Jean, 12 of those, I guess all 16 of those years. I became a candidate again because the fact that our college, Dodge City Community College, was in jeopardy, and I think now it is in double jeopardy. It survived the first attempt to take it over by Fort Hayes, but there are candidates that are running that would dissolve the college and have Fort Hayes take over not only our college, the control of the tuition, but it would also take control of your tax money, and you would have no say in it. I compare this to a carrot on a stick, because Fort Hayes is dangling something out there which people have bought into. Some people have about a 4-year college there. They have never intended to do that, just the same as the farmer with the donkey and the carrot never intends to give the carrot to the donkey that's pulling the cart, and we'd be doing all the work and paying all the bills.
My name is Bill Hammond, and I've been in education administration for going on about 25 years now. I was at Highland Community College, which had the lowest assessed valuation of any of the 19 community colleges to work with. I was at Garden City Community College for about 7 years and worked there. And I'm in the business office at USD 443. I do want to be very clear, I'm here as an individual, not representing in any way 443. In my current position, we run around an $80 to $100 million budget a year, depending on the year and the projects that we undertake. I'm responsible for payroll, the business office, maintenance. We also do food service, transportation, projects, et cetera, et cetera. So they keep me pretty busy down there. A lot of things going on. Have about 1,300 employees that we run through. My interest in the community college, I think that the community college is really the statue of liberty of higher education. The community college invites everyone, whether you're rich, poor, whether you're the top of your class, or whether you are somebody that needs a little developmental education. The community college is really open to everybody, and everybody's welcome to come and attend. A comprehensive community college, as opposed to a junior college, not only provides academic preparation to go on to a 4-year degree, but also can emphasize a number of other areas, 2-year certificates, and also technical education. And that's what I hope that we don't lose in this process. I am in complete agreement that we need to add additional opportunities for our young people. I've been working since 2008 trying to get a Regent Center here. I think that's the right marriage for us, but we can talk about that more a little later. So in no way am I opposed to expanding what the community college does or the availability, but I just don't think we need to dissolve the college in the process.
Thank you for sponsoring the forum and for being here. I'm Florestine Hampton, retired farmer, rancher, and registered nurse. My husband and I both went to nursing school with 5 little children, and we believe in continuing education. We live on Eagle Bluff Ranch in northwest Ford County, where my great-grandparents were pioneer homesteaders. All 7 of us and some grandchildren have hours or degrees from Dodge City Community College. I've been a trustee for 24 years, served as state president of the Kansas Association of Community College Trustees, and was appointed by Governor Graves to the Kansas Board of Regents when the legislature moved community colleges from the Board of Education to the Board of Regents. I've spent my life working for the things in Dodge City, Ford County, and the state of Kansas that I believed were positive and uplifting, and I plan to continue doing that. I'm running because experience is a good teacher, and I believe my years of experience and my dedication will continue to be assets to this Board of Trustees. I value the trust invested in a trustee to defend and care for that which has been entrusted to you.
Thank you. My name is Gene Dole, and I'm a father of 3 adult children and 4 grandchildren. I've lived in the community for over 13 years. While in Dodge, I helped create a local YMCA and the Victory Electric Health Fair. I set up a 401c3 corporation for Meadowlark House, which is an independent child advocacy center for sexually abused children. As a member and chairman of the board of directors for Dodge City Chamber of Commerce, I dedicated many hours to working on the 3i Show, Dodge City Days, and many other community activities. I retired in June as administrator from Dodge City Medical Center after 38 years in healthcare. And I chose to stay in the community because I like it here and because it's central to where my children live. Academically, I taught undergraduate and graduate courses. I did medical and academic research. I've published on my research, so I'm familiar with the college culture. Listening to all sides of an issue and then making an informed decision is what I've been trained to do. I did this in the academic, community, and business environments. So I'm trained, experienced, and I have the time and energy to be an effective trustee for Dodge City Community College.
Did ask the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This mic thing has been the hardest thing in this whole campaign.
I do want to add, there are actually 2 more candidates, Dr. Jeremy Presley and Danny Thomas, for various reasons, could not be here tonight. Is there anybody here who would like to give an introduction for either of those candidates? Okay, if not, we'll move on to our first question, and Bill Hammond will answer this one first. DC3's current president, Dr. Don Woodburn, will retire June 30th, 2015. What procedures would you like to see followed in hiring a new president? And you'll have 1 minute to answer.
I think very seriously that the first thing the board needs to do is determine what the board direction is. Because you should hire a president or a CEO to go where the board wants to go. You should not hire a president or a CEO to go where they want to go, because it's the board that represents the community. So I think they've hired a professional search firm, that's fine, but they need to make sure they find a person who's moving in the same direction that the board is giving.
There are several ways to go about that. Some colleges do their own search. Some promote inside candidates. But the most effective use of time and money in looking for a president is to hire a reputable professional search firm. Work with them to develop a profile for the candidate that you prefer. Make a plan for who on campus is responsible for what as it proceeds. interview the recommended candidates, include representatives from faculty, staff, students, and the public in open and transparent decisions, and then make your decision.
I see that we need to have a selection committee with a trustee as a chairperson. The selection committee should be made up of representatives from the community, the faculty, administration, and the student government. A national recruiting firm should be hired to assist in advertising for and then selecting the preliminary candidates. In my opinion, the committee should first listen to Dr. Woodburn and what he thinks we need to do in selecting his replacement. Ultimately, the committee will review the candidates' resumes, interview them, and then make a recommendation to the board, and finally the board will make the final decision.
I have been involved in 3 different presidential searches, and the procedures that we have used over the past, I think, are being used now, and I think they're good ones. My problem is if the wrong people get elected to the Board of Trustees, Dr. Murda Martin, the president of Fort Hays State University, will be the president, and we will not need one, and we will not have one. I can't imagine hiring anybody who's qualified to become the president who would oversee the dismantling of our community college. I don't know why anybody would want that job. So I think if we elect the wrong people, we're going to have a very tough time getting anybody to file for the job. Excuse me, sorry.
That's all right. Okay, Florestein will have, we'll answer this one first. You'll each have 2 minutes because there's kind of 2 parts to this. The Spearville City Council adopted a resolution on September 10th of 2014 that called for 3 things. Number 1, the Board of Trustees of Dodge City Community College allow a vote by the residents of Ford County to determine whether Dodge City Community College should be dissolved. Number 2, no decision on the dissolution of Dodge City Community College should be made until enabling legislation has been enacted by the Kansas legislature and adequate funding secured. And number 3, no decision on the dissolution of Dodge City Community College should be made until a new feasibility study is conducted with third-party validation as required by the Kansas Board of Regents. Would you support these conditions should a proposal requiring the dissolution of Dodge City Community College come before you? Why or why not?
In the Regents' June report, their council stated there is no statutory process for dissolving a community college, and if any governmental agency were to be dissolved, it would happen by the same process which created it, meaning by vote of the people, as Ford County voters created DCCC in 1965. I have stated that previously and continue to support the right of Ford County taxpayers to vote on any question of dissolution in a merger, which, as the council also stated on page 104, require that the college be dissolved. In one of the early meetings, I called for a validated feasibility study to support the unverifiable claims made in the proposal from Fort Hays, and specifically requested Regent Bangerter to respond to the Regent policy, which requires that. I've had no response. Also, any trustee who supported that plan without some assurance that legislative backing and funding were forthcoming was or would be guilty of dereliction of duty.
I don't have a problem with having a popular vote on whatever options are available for DC3 into the future. Both enabling legislation and an objective feasibility study are elements for making any program workable. At this point, Fort Hays is not considering an arrangement with DC3. So I would put my efforts into making DC3 as strong an institution as it can possibly be. The community needs to be an integral part of Dodge City Community College, not an alienated factor in the college's environment. DC3 and the community need to work together to be successful. The college will grow best with the help and encouragement of the residents and the businesses of Ford County. It will then be in a position of strength if and when opportunities arise.
I was the author of that resolution, so I certainly agree with it. First of all, you are the owners, the people of Ford County are the owners of the college, and no one can take it away from you. And no board of trustees can take it away from you. But they certainly can harm the college in the process. It was amazing that there was no enabling legislation even talked about as to how this process would occur. One interesting thing is that Fort Hays never sent a representative to our Board of Trustees with a proposal. This was all done behind closed doors in secrecy and without any public input at all. It was, because of the way it was rolled out and the attempt to jam it down our throats has caused a lot of wounds in our community, which are going to take a long time to heal here in Ford County. I lay the fault mostly at Fort Hays and those who worked behind the scenes to try to do something that the public did not even know about, and not even the full Board of Trustees knew about. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, you get to answer.
Oh, I get to answer. I'm the last one, so. I agree that the college is owned by the people of Ford County. This is not a state-owned institution. It is not a regionally owned institution. It is a local institution that the taxpayers and citizens of Ford County own. So before anything is done, it should go to the citizens. I would also agree that before any decision is made concerning any proposal, an independent third-party verification, as I talked about, feasibility study. You know, the independent feasibility study we had on the last deal, it was done by the Docking Institute of Fort Hays, so we could merge with Fort Hays. That doesn't sound very independent to me. I think we should also be very clear, though, I am not in favor of dissolving the community college. We can accomplish 2+2 programs, we can bring degree programs here, we can expand technical programs. We don't need to dissolve the college to accomplish those things. And all this mess over the merger has cost the college a $2 million grant. We've lost some good faculty over it. Other faculty are still looking because of the concern, and we've lost potential students. There has been a cost to the way this has been handled. And in my opinion, those who promoted this should be held accountable for those costs and those issues.
Okay. Gene Dole will answer this one first. You'll each have 1 minute. Recent concerns and criticisms have been raised about DC3's employee salaries. What is your position on employee compensation? 1 minute.
I've had actual training and experience in compensation theory. Comparing one salary number or simple averages between various institutions is not the way to approach this issue. You need to look at the ranges of salaries, the distributions within these ranges, as well as other variables, such as formal education, degrees earned, research, publications, longevity, scope of responsibilities, and supply and demand, and a number of other variables. Then a valid comparison can be made. Then and only then can you find out if there is a problem. Then and only then, if things need to be changed, you will have the data to create a constructive solution.
I've only heard one person say that there was a problem, and I have never seen any evidence that there was a problem, that any teacher or faculty or administrator at our community college is paid too much. I've never known any teacher to be paid too much for what they do. Without teachers, none of us would have anything. And I think we all know that they don't do it for the money, they do it for the love of teaching and for their students. That applies to the Dodge City Community College faculty too. We follow, during the 16 years I've been on the board, We followed all of the appropriate comparisons and everything to make sure that our faculty and our administrators were paid in line for other colleges in Kansas so that we could have an opportunity to hire good quality people, and we have. Thank you.
Having been involved both at Garden City Community College, now at the USD 443 Dodge City Public Schools, I can report to you it is much more difficult to hire faculty in Western Kansas as I compare with my experience back in Highland Community College. We don't have the density of population. We don't have a KU or K-State where there's a lot of grad students and many times have a spouse that's available to work for a couple of years while they're finishing up an advanced degree. We have to be aware of our location and the difficulty in bringing high-quality instructors to Southwest Kansas. And the way I've always looked at it is, if we're going to hire somebody, I would want my kids in that class with that instructor. I want the best quality we can get and one that costs money to get there.
There are a lot of people at DCCC that work for not very much money. I wish it could be better. For the faculty, I was reminded of the education concerns in the news when President Reagan was in office, a nation at risk, warning that our students were slipping behind other countries because too many did not have good teachers. Those jobs were not valued enough, didn't pay enough, and we didn't train them well enough. Today, we still worry that our students aren't keeping up in the sciences and even in the basics. I think I'm right that nationally, 63% of students that come to community colleges are enrolled in at least one developmental course. Our numbers are more like 80%. Even though great teachers are there because they want to be a teacher, others that ought to be there aren't because of the pay. I wish we could pay good teachers enough that the profession is also rewarding financially.
No, this way.
Like I said, the bike's the toughest part of this whole career.
All right, so the next question really has two parts. So you'll each have 2 minutes, and Terry Malone will begin. According to the DC3 Board of Trustees Legal Counsel, Glenn Curbs, any previously voted down proposal can be brought back up by any trustee at any time. Should the original proposal from Fort Hays, which would dissolve Dodge City Community College, or the November 5th proposal drafted by President Woodburn, which would keep DC3 intact and add Fort Hays and a tech center on top of it, be placed before you for a vote, how would you vote and why? And please answer for both possibilities.
Regarding the Fort Hays proposal first, it required, number one, that the Dodge City Community College be dissolved. It would have to cease to exist. No one, and I mean no one, has ever been able to articulate a reason why Dodge City Community College had to cease to exist in order for Fort Hays State University to even think about offering courses at Dodge City Community College. In fact, they did not intend to ever offer face-to-face instruction at Dodge City Community College. Secondly, they demand they would take control of our tax money. We'd have to give them the $9.5 million, whatever it is we raise in taxes. Fort County people would not have any control over what they did with our tax money. And they would also have control over what was taught and what wasn't taught. They would have complete control over who was hired and fired. Their president would be our president. We would no longer be in existence. They would have control over tuition. Our tuition now is $70 an hour with fees. Their tuition is $189. The only motivation Fort Hays ever had to enter into this was so that they could take control of our college, take control of our students, and make a couple $1 million a year by raising tuition. That's their proposal. And the proposal that Dr. Woodburn and the administration of the college presented in November was a perfect 2+2. We remain independent. We do our thing that we've been doing well for the last 80 years, and Fort Hays can come and do their thing if they truly wanted to actually help our community and do something for Southwest Kansas, which they don't. They only are motivated by their own self-interest.
The issue is very clear, and I think there's an issue in this election that divides the candidates. I don't believe there's any candidate that doesn't want to move forward and do some things, improve opportunities for our youth and our children. And I'm sitting here, and there's a couple little kids out in the audience right now, they're outside, and I really think that's the discussion tonight. It's what's going to be here for them. And I don't think anybody wants to take anything away from it. We want to add as much as we can. But I don't happen to think that we have to dissolve the college to get there. I believe it can be accomplished either with a Region Center, 2+2 programs, there's some other opportunities, and we don't have to dissolve the college. That's why I would vote against the first proposal. The second proposal, I think it's a good beginning point. I have some concerns about it, and I'll tell you why. I happen to think our kids are the best out here. Now, some people may not think so, but I think our kids are the best and deserve the best. And this is an ag area. And if you're going to bring an ag program here, what school do you want in Kansas to bring the ag program to you? Now, there may be a few KU people who might not agree, but basically what? K-State. And the proposal from Fort Hays basically said they'd run all the programs. There wasn't even options of other schools providing those kind of programs. I think we deserve the best for our kids. That may not always be the same university.
If the original proposal were brought back up, I would vote no, because there is no question what it means. Dissolve DCCC, lose accreditation, local control, and specific programs that have been built during the last 80 years. I voted twice in good faith when it was first before us to pursue the concept and, quote, determine the specific framework, but no input from DCCC was incorporated into the structure. It was a good concept, but a bad plan badly promoted. When finally a proposal from DCCC was presented for board approval on November 5th, which would have kept the community college intact and added the benefits of the concept to the base that is already in place, 3 trustees refused to send it on for evaluation and discussion. I voted for that as an opportunity that needed to happen and would again.
First, when working on a viable agreement between 2 or more parties, there needs to be give and take on specific points that are outlined. In my opinion, either one of the proposals could have been used as a starting point for discussion. In reality, neither plan was pursued far enough so we could find out what points are talking points, what points are posturing points, and what points are actually no movement points. None of that was determined. Nobody really knows because the discussions were cut off before we got deep enough into either discussion on the issues. So from my standpoint, either of the documents could be used as a beginning point. But all involved, all the parties involved need to listen and work together to come up with a viable plan that works for both parties.
We're getting better with the mic.
This question, Bill Hammond will begin. You'll each have 1 minute. Most Ford County residents are concerned about taxes paid to Dodge City Community College. What is your position on property taxes paid to DC3?
In my professional life for the last 24 plus years, I've had to deal with property taxes. Nobody likes to pay property taxes. I understand it. I also understand that our current way of funding both K-12 and community college require property taxes. I do strongly believe that all the community colleges should come together and continue to protest the fact we really provide a statewide system of education with our community colleges that's unfairly done on a very small number of counties. And we need to keep taking that to the legislature year after year after year, and we need to be persistent to fight that battle. And I think that's the kind of thing that board members need to get involved in on kind of a face-to-face, and let's roll up our sleeves and go to work basis. I think we owe it to the taxpayers to be as efficient and as effective, but we have to remember we also owe our students top quality educational opportunities. And that's always going to be the dilemma in the discussion we find.
Our forefathers in this country mandated that we support education for the people, and taxes are the way we do that. Community colleges are an American invention starting in 1901 in Joliet, Illinois. They are widely recognized as a bargain, accessible and affordable both to the student and to society, because an educated society is economic development. Community colleges belong to their home county, their base of support, and the state either does or doesn't do its share. A few years ago, the state paid about 25% of our budget. Now it's 20% or less, and more cuts coming. The mill levy for tax collection is a major source of revenue that depends on the valuation in the county. Johnson County's levy is 9.5 mills. Colby, Thomas County is 45.8. Ours is 32.3, down 0.1 from last year.
As I said earlier, I'm retired, so I can't afford an ever-increasing tax rate, like it has increased over the past 20 years. If elected, I will do everything possible to ensure that the rates do not go up. We all need to support local economy and local economic development, both in Dodge City and Ford County. As the number and size of our businesses grow, so too does the monetary support for Dodge City Community College grow. If there's enough economic growth, then the mill levy could even be lowered. We've all heard shop local. Well, every time we go to Garden City, Wichita, or go statewide to buy things, revenue flows out of our area. That's not good. When we support local businesses, we help our college.
One thing that used to help keep the taxes lower was the out-of-county tuition, where a Clark County resident student would pay, or their county would pay part of their tuition, or additional tuition actually, to the college to help educate them. That was usually around $24 per credit hour, so around $700 and some dollars a year. That was very helpful, and it helped pay for the education of those students. That went away under House Bill 345 when the legislature said that they would increase state aid to the 18 counties that have it. They reneged on that promise immediately, and we lost millions of dollars because the legislature did not keep their promise to properly fund the community colleges, and 87 counties are now getting a free ride. That's wrong. I would work to change that.
The next question, Flores Jean Hampton will answer first, and you'll each have 1 minute. On October 7th, the athletic director of DC3, Casey Malik, gave an extensive presentation to the DC3 Board of Trustees, enumerating very few options for athletics going forward should DC3 be dissolved and become Fort Hays of Dodge City. There is a strong likelihood that athletics would be untenable, and the motion originally proposed by trustee Morris Reeves was to move forward with the merger even if it meant losing collegiate athletics in Dodge City. Considering that 45% of all students at DC3 are athletes, and 95% of the students living in the dorms are athletes, are you willing to pursue a four-year institution even if it means losing our collegiate athletics program? Why or why not?
Whether you're an athletic fan or not, the concern with our 2 new dorms is that they were built with revenue bonds, which means we need to build them, and those students are primarily from out of Ford County, many of them athletes with Pell Grants. Athletics are PR, whether your team is winning or not, and an identification for the students. Some colleges don't go that route, and that's a decision that has to be made over time. Many of those athletes bring friends with them to school, and for some of them, it's their chance to become productive members of society. There was a time that football was dropped at DCCC several years ago, and reports were that enrollment fell drastically.
Athletics is a necessary part of college life. A couple of people in our community have previously tried to eliminate intercollegiate athletic scholarships from DC3. But a healthy body is essential to good academic performance. We need to have physical activities for all of our students. Athletics is a major role in our future, but there needs to be a plan. We need to get a plan, work the plan, and make sure that athletics is retained. Don't let DC3 stay exactly where it is now out of fear of change. If that happens, DC3 will not exist, and then athletics will be gone. Don't be naive. The world will continue to change, and if we don't lead the way, we will be left behind.
The athletics are an integral part of the college at the present time. They certainly play a major role, but they shouldn't play too major of a role. We should look for ways to increase students at the college and not rely so much on students that are involved in athletics. I think that we do not do a good enough job of educating and scholarshiping the students in Ford County. That would be a major priority of mine. And pursuing a four-year institution hasn't got anything to do with it. Dodge City Community College would be dissolved, there would be no athletics, and we would have no four-year institution. We would have a virtual learning center, what Fort Hays presents now. The idea of a actual state university at Dodge City, Dodge City is not going to happen. That was stated by Andy Tompkins, the CEO of the Kansas Board of Regents.
You know, as a business officer, it's kind of a love-hate situation with coaches and athletics. I was in the business for 14 years at the community college level, and now I'm of course, the school district. But one thing that I've come to learn is that there's a lot of young people who aren't quite sure what they want to do with life. And it takes them a little while to find out. And for some of those people, whether it's athletics, whether it's cheerleading, whether it's the debate squad, if they can get involved, and that may be what brings them to a community college, they get serious. And I'm still reminded of a guy I met at Highland, and believe it or not, Highland actually had one season they were undefeated. And for those of you who've been around the community college, that's really unbelievable. But they had a big deal about this when they celebrated the reunion of that 20 or so years later. And there's one guy who said, you know, I came to Highland and I never had problems as a student, but I really hadn't learned to study until I had to go to coach's study hall. He went on to law school.
Okay, Jean will get the next question first, and you'll each have 1 minute. At the DC3 Student Government-sponsored forum, the two largest concerns of students were quality of life issues such as additional basketball goals and sand volleyball areas, and student participation in the Board of Trustees decision-making process. How would you work to improve student quality of life, and would you encourage greater student involvement with the Board of Trustees?
The mission of the college is to serve the needs of the students. We have student surveys, and they indicate that there are shortcomings. Are we addressing them based on the surveys? I don't know, but I think we need to. Don't just ask the students, go to the students, talk to them, listen to them. The question about participating in the trustee activities indicates that they are not involved right now. Why are they not involved? They're why we're here. As experienced adults, we need to work with the students. Together we can both grow and learn from each other. Are we so afraid that we cannot listen to the students' input? The students should have a presence at the board meetings, and the board members should have a presence with the students.
I've always thought that having a student representative on the Board of Trustees would be a very good thing. They wouldn't have any voting power, according to statute, obviously, but they could serve in an advisory opinion. I learned a lot when the students came to us, and we would invite them to every board meeting to hear from them. And I remember Joe White, back in 1998, he brought a lot, as did Liz Rogers, to the discussion. I think happy students are good students, and they also encourage other students to join them, so that would increase our enrollment, which is a good thing. So I would be very encouraging that we provide them more opportunities.
I think two items. I think we need to get the basketball court outside done. I think we need to get a volleyball court outside done. I think participation on the board, really, there needs to be training of students. You know, if you're going to ask students to participate and really represent their peers, you need to help prepare them to do that in a positive way, in a way that really they can get involved. So we're probably going to have to spend some money sending some of these students to some of the conferences, both national and local, so that when they start taking that role, they can do it in a good manner and really represent the students. I recognize also, though, that by statute they can't be a voting member of the board, but I do think they should at least be making a monthly report to the board of student activities, of student concerns. And there are some other things we could do in addition to that.
The student-sponsored forum was a highlight. They were well-prepared, courteous hosts, and obviously enjoying the experience. I was proud of them and told them so in the next board meeting. The questions they asked were pertinent and indicated a group that were interested in the process of becoming involved and making things happen. I have encouraged them to be more active in bringing information to the board in monthly meetings. Students are the reason the college is there, and all the rest of us are there because of them. They should be the center of everything that happens on that campus.
Okay, this is the last question we'll pose to our candidates, and then they'll do their closing statements. Again, I encourage you, if you have any questions for them, please hang around after the candidates. I'm sure we'll be more than happy to answer. You'll each have 1 minute. Terry Malone will begin the answering. In previous forums, each of you have indicated that you do not wish Dodge City Community College be dissolved. In the months from March of last year to November, when a proposal was being considered that would dissolve Dodge City Community College and hand over control of our college to Fort Hays State University, what did you do to prevent its dissolution?
What I did was get a hold of all the information I could, the white paper, the proposals, analyzed them. I talked to the college's attorney, I talked to other attorneys, and I talked to board members. But the most important thing I did was attend a town hall meeting held in Dodge City at the Dodge House on August the 12th, where Dr. Murdo Martin, the new president of Fort Hays, was telling us how much, this wasn't going to be a takeover, she wanted to be a nice thing. I asked her a very important question: how much money will Fort Hays allocate from its own budget or from any money from the legislature to provide face-to-face classes at Dodge City? She said, none. They never, no one has ever disputed that. She's never disputed that. They didn't plan on spending one red dime.
My involvement was that as this thing began to unfold, we tried to get the facts, and that was kind of interesting for a while. It was almost like there were these things floating around, but they weren't really available to the general public. Someone seemed to think they ought to be private or hidden. Well, if you're in a public entity and you're spending public tax dollars, folks, those ought to be public documents, and we finally got a hold of those. And basically what I did is we opened up our living room. And so a group of us started meeting together, talking, showing up at board meetings, asking questions, And amazingly, it seemed that was kind of, at first we were kind of ignored. I think they thought we were going to go away, but I think we kind of got their attention. And I think that's made a difference. And it has brought forth a public discussion, which I think has been a good thing for this community.
I was outspoken on a number of occasions in board meetings, it's on video, about the negatives I saw in the proposal. I wrote letters to the editor of Dodge City and Hutch paper. I wrote letters to the regents, to KACCT. I spoke out in KACCT meetings. I called some key legislators. I visited with Myrna Martin when she arrived, and I repeated the same message to many people who called me, came to my home, or stopped me in a store, and I still hold the same message.
When the public discussions were held and the emotions were running wild, I was the only person who stood up and asked the trustees, the people on all sides of the issues, to listen to each other and to work things out. I remember that people calmed down after my comments for about 5 minutes, and then the blind emotions resumed. I was only one voice, but at least I spoke up. As a trustee, I would exercise more influence on the process so that all issues were heard. The issues were fleshed out, facts were determined, and then compromises were made.
Okay. This is the closing statements for each candidate. They'll each have 2 minutes, and we'll start with Bill Hammond.
In this community, where we've been, we were trying to merge with an entity where the leader of that entity said, these are non-negotiable. It was non-negotiable whether we would dissolve DC3 or not. And you can talk until you're blue in the face. If the other side says this is non-negotiable, it's kind of hard to negotiate. What we really have in this community at this point, in my opinion, is kind of like the prophet talked about, there's a plumb line. And when he talks about the plumb line, what we're really saying is, there's folks in this community who I think are willing to dissolve DC3 with the hope of maybe getting something better, but no guarantees of it. I think there's another group of us that are saying, we would like a lot of things and we're willing to work hard for a lot of things, but we're not going to give up a proven 80-year institution that's going to take care of our kids and our grandkids, or maybe put smoke and mirrors. And that's the difference in this election.
Thank you again for sponsoring the forum, and thank you all who came. This is my position. DCCC will remain intact with accreditation and all programs in place under local control. An example of that is our helicopter program is the only one like it in partnership with a community college in the whole world. I am convinced this community college, or this community, is better because of this community college. And number two, Ford County will not become the only county whose taxpayers are the major financial support of a state institution. Number three, we will promote partnerships with Fort Hays and or other universities for baccalaureate degrees and or to build a tech center after a current validated feasibility study is in place, which is according to Regent's policy. We should have been working together on some kind of exciting but realistic plan all this time. It's my hope we can still come together to promote further educational opportunities, and whether you're a KU fan or not, they have a slogan I wish we could adopt. To go far above, we must go together. I ask for your vote on April 7th.
I want to thank you for attending the forum tonight. Please appreciate the fact that when you vote next week, you will be affecting the future direction for the community college. When it comes to issues, the mill levy has increased 24% over the past 20 years. And if elected, I'll work to keep that level. If elected, I will not have conflicts of interest, nor will I owe my allegiance to any party, group, coalition, or individual because I funded my own campaign with my own dollars. If elected, I will ask thoughtful, probative questions about DC3 finances and programs in order to strengthen the institution so that we are in the best possible position to work with other entities for future growth. Questions such as, what is our deferred maintenance program? What's the long-term viability of the helicopter program? What are reasonable wages to pay our staff? These are questions that need to be asked. My attention will be directed toward the students and developing programs that a college culture will attract the Ford County youth to attend our community college. One of my biggest concerns is the relationship between DC3 and the community. Both entities need to work together because DC3 is funded by the community, and the community needs the training that DC3 can give its youth. A vote for me will provide you with a trustee who will listen to all sides of an issue, ask questions that need to be asked, and make decisions based upon facts, not blind emotions.
Dr. Hammond of Fort Hays State University wasn't telling a joke when he walked into Dr. Woodburn, the place he was, the office he was in Topeka in the winter of 2014, and pointed his finger at him and said, "I'm going to take your college." He meant that then, and they mean it now. It is not blind emotion to look at the facts and actually see what the facts say. The facts are, and there's no dispute about this, that Dr. Hammond addressed the Dodge City Community College faculty, that's addressed in their proposal, that Dodge City Community College must cease to exist, non-negotiable. So if the Dodge City Community College trustees were not willing to negotiate that, they could just forget it. And that's what the three trustees who did not want to affront Kansas Board of Regents or whoever else by sending them a proposal that kept Dodge City Community College our college. It is our college. They didn't want to send that up there because they didn't want to affront them. Our college is our college, but it won't be our college if the wrong trustees get elected. If you elect Mr. Hammond, Loris Jane Hampton, and myself, you will never have to worry about Dodge City Community College going down the drain. The Fort Hays offered nothing in return for taking our money, our students, and our tuition dollars. I hope that you vote, and you vote to keep our community college ours. Thank you.
All right, that concludes the Spearville Forum.
Can I make one comment? I am not Dr. Hammond from Fort Hays. There are many people who seem to think that's who I am. I am not. I am not related. So I just would like that on the record if I could.
Well, I was going to say that having two fewer candidates made this actually breeze right on through. It's very much shorter than it could have been. So I'm thankful for that. I've been a candidate before, been on the hot seat in these forums, so let's please give them a round of applause. I'd like to thank you for coming out tonight and showing concern. I'd like to thank Spearville Schools for their wonderful facility here. And if you haven't seen the new gym, you should check it out. It's pretty great. You can vote now at the Fort County Government Center, the 4th floor of the county clerk, or on April 7th here in town. Thanks again for coming out.